Man, if there is one word that I can use to describe my feelings about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, it's overwhelmed. Just every aspect of this game is just, for whatever reason, kind of overwhelming for me. The scope of the game is overwhelming. The just density of the game, just how much stuff that there is to do in this game is overwhelming. The mechanics of the game are overwhelming. And it's like I've played the game for about 10 hours, I want to say, probably a little more than that. And I feel like I have barely scratched the surface of it. Um okay, I'm just going to openly talk about what I've done in the game, so I'll put that warning out there. I'm honestly a couple days late to making a first impressions video anyways, so if you don't want to know anything, all I'll say is that I highly recommend the game. I'm absolutely loving it. If you like Breath of the Wild, from what I've played so far, it is a lot more of Breath of the Wild, but it's not people saying, oh, $70 DLC. It's not DLC. It's very much a sequel. So go. I recommend it. Whatever. Bye. Leave me alone. Okay. The way this game starts is really cool because it just immediately brings you into the game, right? And seeing like Link like follow Zelda in this sort of, honestly, in a way that feels like a PlayStation game, you know. Seeing just Link following Zelda around in a tomb and like learning more about a lot about the lore and stuff. It felt like a very un-Nintendo way to be in the game, and I thought it was cool. I hope to see more of that maybe. Just like playing through sequences where you're really just seeing characters like coexist with one another, if that makes any sense. And then that whole beginning was really cool. But then once you get to the Sky Islands and you realize just how cool these mechanics are, and legitimately playing this game, I am consistently, as I'm solving puzzles, as I'm like experimenting with the mechanics, as like I encounter these situations, I am literally saying out loud to nobody, this is so cool. I am consistently saying that out loud because ever since you get on the Sky Island or whatever, and you just start experiencing the mechanics, it's just all so cool. The just the design of it all is so creative. Like, oh my gosh! And obviously we have to talk about that title sequence, right? When Link jumps off of the thing and it's like Fortnite and the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom logo pops up. It's so cool. It's just cool. And yeah, and then to get a bit deeper to the mechanics, I mean, you know, they took away a lot of, or pretty much all of the abilities from the first game. And at first I was like, oh man, this is kind of weird. But the way that they easily allow you to do a lot of those same mechanics with the fuse mechanics and fusing stuff to your arrows and to your and like to sticks and stuff, and the way that they're able to, you're essentially still able to do a lot of that stuff with elements, right? When it comes to the bombs, when it comes to the freezing stuff, but then do more on top of that. I'm like, it's just so genius the way that they utilized fusing. So yeah, fusing stuff is awesome. The what is it, the thing that you use to move stuff around, I don't remember what it's called, but but like being able to just like move stuff around. Recall, I actually have not messed around with recall too much, to be honest. I don't know why. It's recall and ascend are just two things that I forget that I have. Like I got through one of the Bokoblin areas from the trailer where like they roll the spiked ball down the ramp, and I didn't realize until it was too late. I was like, oh, I should have used recall like in the trailer to make the spiked ball go back up the ramp. But it's just, these abilities are just, they give you so much freedom to genuinely do things the way that you want to do them, that it is just overwhelming. Where I'm like, where it's like I'm encountering these puzzles that I'm like, I can literally do anything to solve this, and having so much possibility makes it hard for whatever reason. But I love that you can just kind of cheese stuff. It's like, for a lot of these puzzles, it's like, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna stick a bunch of like planks together and just make a really long bridge and get through the puzzle. And it's like, I love that a lot of times that just works. Like, there's probably a more creative way of solving these puzzles, but it works. It's really cool. And yeah, so at first, especially what made me feel overwhelmed was because once you get off of the Sky Islands and you actually just get into the open world, unlike Breath of the Wild, where after you got out of the tutorial area and you got into the open world, you did have like a basic quest mission where it was like, hey, go to Kakariko Village and talk to Pura or whatever. Or Impa? I don't remember. I think it was Impa. Go talk to Impa. In this game, it doesn't have that. Like, you go down to the Sky Islands and it's just like, go find Zelda. We have no leads. No leads whatsoever. But just go find Zelda. And at that moment, that was when I was really overwhelmed. I was like, I have no idea where I'm supposed to go here. So I just started exploring. And what I love about this is that I could genuinely see different people having even more diverse, like, first experiences with this game. It's like, I wonder, like, where people choose to go first. Like, I did make my way to Kakariko Village first, but it's like, are there some people that just went in like the complete opposite direction and, like, I don't know, maybe visited the Gorons first, or like the hot chicks first? I forget what their names are. The Gerudo people, I think they're called. Who even knows? Like, are there people that visited them first? I don't know. I'd be really fascinated to like see the data on that. And so, yeah, just walking around, just so like, a lot of people had the complaint that Breath of the Wild was a bit too sparse with content. Me personally, I didn't have that opinion. I thought that the actual world itself and traversing that world and like figuring out how to climb mountains and stuff, that, like, Breath of the Wild, what made that game so amazing to me was that it's the first open world game where I felt like the actual open world itself was the draw there. It was like figuring out, how do I get over this mountain? Like, how do I get across this thing? It was like, it's the first open world game that I played where I was like, the actual open world itself and actually like figuring out how to traverse it is like the point of the game, right? Like just for example, when I play something like Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm never like fascinated by the world itself. Sorry, I'm dying over here. My apologies. Don't get me wrong. When I play Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm like, oh yeah, this looks beautiful. I love the lore of Horizon Zero Dawn. But actually traversing the world is never exciting. It's like, honestly, Horizon Zero Dawn is a game where if it was just like a regular Sony first-party game, like The Last of Us or Uncharted, the game would arguably be better served by it, in my opinion. I don't know if that's a hot take. Whereas in Legend of Zelda, traversing the world itself is the point of the game. So that's why I never really had the complaint that the world in the first game was too sparse. Either way, you're not going to have that complaint here. There is so much stuff to do in the world. For like literally everywhere you go, you're going to run into something. So my first experience playing the game, especially since I didn't have a main objective, was just messing around with stuff. I was taking out Bokoblin bases. I was helping the Koroks. Although I will say, the Korok little missions, I'm not a big fan of those. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but I'm like, I just end up grabbing the Korok guy and just walking him over to his guy, to his friend. And I'm like, is there a smarter way of going about this? I'm like, I feel like this is just what you have to do. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just an idiot and I'm oversimplifying it, and I should be a bit smarter about how I'm doing things. But I don't know. The Korok missions are honestly a bit tedious, at least in this initial stage of the game. Um, then you run into the guy with the sign who's like weirdly holding up the sign. Like for those guys, like I just fuse together a bunch of like I'll cut down a bunch of trees and I'll fuse together a bunch of logs to make like a sort of like a support thing, and it looks stupid, but it works, and I hold up the thing. And sometimes whenever there's a plank around, I'll just like stack like two planks on top of them to form an L, so that it holds it up. So I love how you can just bash your way through those. The shrines so far are also really cool. I think they really allow for you being able to just experiment with the mechanics and make your way through them. Also, I've gone through some caves, which are really cool. Um, those you just go into it and get like resources and stuff, and the caves are really cool. I have not so I have heard about this. It kind of sucks that I didn't get like that experience of like experiencing this for the first time, but I have heard that there is like that this game is like kind of like double the size of the first game, because you have the overworld map, which is the same world as Breath of the Wild. Then you have the Sky Islands, but that you also have an underground area that is just as big as the overworld. I have not gone into that yet, but so I haven't gone down there yet. So I can't wait to do that. But again, like I have maybe looked, it's taken me like 10 hours to just barely crack a dent in the overworld. So I guess just to let you know where I'm at, I just went to like the lookout in front of Hyrule Castle, where you talk to Pura and you get the paraglider. Like I just did that. And by the way, speaking of the paraglider, I absolutely love the big towers that you have that are kind of replacing the towers from Breath of the Wild. The way, and I was like, oh, like I found one early on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, please tell me that these things are just gonna shoot you up into the sky eventually. And that's exactly what they did. They introduced this mechanic where you're able to just shoot up into the sky and fall down. And you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of a game called The Pathless. Awesome game. I kind of call it the only good Sonic game that exists, because it's a game all about just like consistently running and not losing momentum. But the one thing about it is that it's an open world game. Is that it's all about like getting high up into the sky. And one of that game is awesome because there's not a mini map, but you're always able to like get up into the sky and look down at the world and sort of use that as a mini map. It was a really cool mechanic. And I imagine that they didn't necessarily take inspiration from the Pathless for Tears of the Kingdom, but it really reminded me of that, of like shooting up into the sky and just looking down the world, figuring out what you want to do. That is so cool. It's so, again, I'm consistently saying that throughout my entire time playing this game, it is just so cool. But yeah, so that's where I stopped, right? That's the last thing I did. I went up, shot up to the sky. Like I just got the paraglider. I shot up into the sky and I came back down. And it is just so cool. By the way, I really do need to say this as well. This game is kind of a technical marvel on the Switch. Like the fact that, I mean, obviously it's the Switch. I have a Switch Lite, so I'm playing it portably. It's 720p, it's 30 FPS, and I know in modern day gaming, like a lot of PS5 games and Xbox Series X games are running at like 1080p, sub 30 FPS, and people are like, "Oh, this is a tragedy." But can we just contextualize this a bit? This is the Switch. This is ancient hardware. This is a game that is massive. The draw distance is like surprisingly really good, and you're able to just seamlessly shoot up into the sky and come back down. The physics in this game are like the backbone of it. And so far, like, I haven't experienced any weird bugs or anything. And I'm like, Nintendo is able to do this on the Switch. And, like, EA can't make a Star Wars game run on modern hardware. And obviously, Star Wars looks a lot better than Tears of the Kingdom. But still, it's like, the fact that they managed to make this game work on the Switch as seamless as it does, it definitely just completely shuts down the conversation of like, oh, Scarlet and Violet were that buggy because they were on the Switch. No. Scarlet and Violet were buggy because Game Freak rushed the game out because they had to hit their deadline. You know what I'm saying? So, man, listen, I could go on and on about this game, but at the end of the day, I think so far it is absolutely phenomenal. I have a full-time job and I go to school currently. So no, I cannot just spend all of my time playing this game. But the highest praise I can give it is that I want to. I have legitimately considered taking a week off just to play this game nonstop. Like, I could do it. I have enough hours saved that I could do that, but I don't think I will because I like to save my hours for like actual emergencies and stuff like that. Or I don't know, like until like I have to, or else I start losing them. But anyways, you legitimately, sincerely have zero interest in my job, so I will just end the video here and play a little more of Tears of the Kingdom. So let me know what you think about the game in the comments down below. Goodbye.